don't think she fully understood or was even interested in what the role was supposed to become.
A bump that at all looks like a human pregnant bump. Alexandra Marshall, what do you make of this video?
The video of Meghan sobbing uncontrollably right at the airport, desperately clinging to her husband's arm, repeatedly whispering, "This has gone too far," is spreading rapidly. Because behind the polished smiles in the media and the picture-perfect family portraits lies a simmering truth waiting to erupt. The recent investigation into Meghan's pregnancy with Archie has uncovered shocking details powerful enough to crack the very foundation of royal honor. And when the confidential file was placed on King Charles's desk by royal police, he knew it was time for the monarchy to confront its greatest question of bloodline and the survival of an entire generation. King Charles urgently summoned Prince Harry back to the UK, along with little Archie, for a DNA test under absolute security. Every step was supervised by Royal Special Forces, each blood sample encoded and transported to a top-secret military laboratory. Because the decision King Charles was about to make wouldn't just affect a single family, it could alter the future of the Windsor dynasty. The question is no longer what happened, but rather, who is truly behind all of this? Watch the full video where every conclusion is revealed with details that will leave the entire world stunned. 1. Meghan panics. Harry sinks into addiction. In the luxurious Montecito mansion, Meghan paced the room like a trapped animal. Outside, the golden afternoon sun spread across the flawless garden, but inside her, everything was crumbling piece by piece. Her phone buzzed constantly in her hand, headlines growing increasingly cruel in their accusations. Is Archie not Meghan Markle's biological child? Fake pregnancy, surrogacy covered up. Every glance at the screen made her chest tighten. She once believed the rumors would fade like smoke, but now they had ignited into a wildfire, devouring what little peace she had left to hold on to. Meghan clenched the phone, scrolling past cold-blooded analysis videos, dissecting her every move, her baby bump, the folds of her dresses. They dragged out the photo of the cushion, suspected to be a prop. They pointed out the birth certificate missing a doctor's signature, unexplained edits. She felt like she was standing in the eye of a storm. The question dug deeper. If they uncover something, what happens next? Will my career, my image, my family collapse with just one person hitting upload? In a rising panic, Meghan rushed toward the office, hoping to find Harry, the place she once found comfort. She pushed the door open. What she saw was a shell of Harry sprawled on the sofa like a lifeless figure. His t-shirt was wrinkled, hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot and sunken. The room was thick with the stench of weed and cheap whiskey. She took a deep breath to suppress the urge to vomit. Harry, Meghan called louder, her voice cracking. He lazily lifted his head, his eyes dull and lifeless. "You're reading those articles again. You already know. They won't stop no matter what we do. What are you doing? The world is tearing everything apart, and you're lying here, high and strung out, like someone who's given up." Meghan nearly screamed. "If this blows up, we'll lose the crown, Harry. They'll take everything from us." Harry closed his eyes, sighed, his voice dragging as if lost in fog. "We've already lost, Meghan. You know that, don't you? The things you're trying to protect, they're no longer real." Meghan stood frozen. She never expected such hollow despair. Her heart pounded, ready to explode. How can a woman face such brutal accusations without her husband beside her? How can she survive if the one person she trusts most is sinking in booze and silence, unmoved even by her tears? She had exhausted every play in her game. Meghan collapsed into a seat, knees drawn up, staring into the void as if one blink would cause the truth to burst free and be exposed to the world. Inside her, a cold wind howled without end, as cold as the guilt gnawing at her core. No amount of makeup or moving speeches could mask it now. She once told herself this was the right decision. She once believed that if the secret remained buried, she'd soon hold a royal crown. But now Meghan's mind kept replaying the nightmare. One day, someone on the old team flips. A hospital leaks confidential info. A camera accidentally captures something it shouldn't. When that day comes, all her efforts to maintain control would be blown apart. Worse, she'd become a global symbol of deception. Every word, every past gesture would be dissected, twisted, and smeared. Meghan covered her face, tears flowing silently. It wasn't from pain, but a fear so vivid, so real. If someone uncovers the truth, she knows she'll have nowhere to hide physically or emotionally. She can't keep running, can't keep lying, and can't speak it aloud. The situation is a trap locking her down, chaining her conscience. She sat next to him, head low, hands trembling. If they've come this far, is it still possible to turn back? If Harry won't recover, can she carry all this alone? That question stung more than any headline. Meghan once thought she could control the game, the media, the public, the narrative. But now, she sees herself losing because trust has cracked, the truth remains unclear, and the man she called her husband is no longer a pillar. Instead, he floats in smoke drink and broken memories of a monarchy that has already cast them out. 2. Royal Police launch investigation. Outside the sun-drenched gates of Montecito across the Atlantic, the atmosphere within the palace began to shift. The quiet whispers in royal hallways had now turned into official directives. There must be an investigation. Suspicion was no longer a fringe rumor. It had reached the desks of the highest advisors and landed squarely in the ears of King Charles. The royal police were ordered to re-examine all data related to Archie's birth because even the palace could no longer turn a blind eye to the growing undercurrent. Old images were pulled from archives. Every video of Meghan pregnant was rewound, zoomed in, and analyzed frame by frame. A photo released by Getty Images, long considered one of the most authoritative sources of official visuals, suddenly became the epicenter of controversy. In it, Meghan's baby bump appeared to shift, unnaturally resembling a prosthetic pillow. Getty denied any alterations, but the denial came too late. The fever of suspicion had spiraled out of control. Digital imaging experts, former royal staffers, and even ex-security personnel began stepping forward or claiming something doesn't add up in the entire birth narrative. As the investigation deepened, the royal police began combing through all medical records tied to Archie's birth. And shockingly, not a single file from any public hospital was verified. No doctor, no midwife, no trace indicating Meghan had ever set foot in a delivery room. A bizarre void in the royal system's otherwise meticulous record-keeping. As British royal investigators connected each thread, a chillingly logical picture began to form. And the conclusion, though still unofficial, was becoming clearer by the day. we may have all been spun around in a theatrical performance whose lead actress never actually took the stage. Royal tradition is not merely pomp and pageantry for the public's amusement. It's the emotional glue bonding the monarchy to its people, especially when a child is born. The radiant hospital photos, the teary-eyed parents, the crowd's applause, all are sacred rituals. But with Archie's arrival, Meghan and Harry extinguished that flame. Instead of a warm public moment, the couple opted for a private photo shoot inside Windsor Castle 2 days after Archie's birth. No crowd, no nurses or doctors, no trace of real life in the frame. Everything was tightly controlled. One reporter, one photographer, and a couple who looked more like they were reading a script than two freshly overwhelmed parents. Because by then, Meghan and Harry exuded none of the excitement or emotion. They appeared guarded, calculated, and most alarmingly, rehearsed. And that's the problem when everything is too polished, too orchestrated, people begin to question whether any of it is real. Feeling of authenticity vanished. What should have been a love-filled moment felt as cold as a staged commercial. There were no hesitant glances, no exhausted smiles, only perfect lighting and a soulless backdrop. In contrast, William and Kate had stepped outside the hospital mere hours after their children were born, hair tousled, but faces glowing with genuine joy. The once ridiculed theory of a secret surrogacy labeled outrageous had now become the leading line of inquiry in international broadcasts. Rumors swirled that the entire process had been coordinated covertly from the US under a highly confidential legal agreement involving untraceable intermediaries. With each passing day, another layer of doubt was added to the chilling portrait. Besides, the tech world joined the fray. AI experts analyzed Archie's face in every frame and produced inconsistent genetic match data. One particular video raised eyebrows. Could the earliest images of Archie have been artificially created using deepfake technology? A bold question, but no longer dismissed as fantasy. We live in a time where truth can be reconstructed like an edited film. The palace, always eager to maintain its image, could no longer sit idle. A large-scale internal investigation was launched, combining royal security forces, legal teams, and even genetic biology experts. The goal? Verify the bloodline. Because if something was amiss, the fallout wouldn't just be a media scandal, but a direct blow to the legitimacy of an entire royal branch. With every uncovered detail, the facade of a happy family image unraveled further. There were no baby cries in a hospital room, no doctor holding the hand of America's princess, no witnesses beyond two individuals, Harry and Meghan, who controlled every narrative. They had built a picture-perfect illusion so immaculate that its very perfection became the most damning evidence against them. 3. Decision to conduct a DNA test. The pressure was no longer just a few sensational tabloid headlines. It had become a wave of public outrage surging beyond social media platforms and seeping all the way to the gates of Buckingham Palace. The British people, historically loyal to the monarchy, began to question the most fundamental belief: is the royal bloodline still pure? And when faith begins to falter, the throne itself trembles. In that thick, suffocating silence, King Charles III could not afford to remain still another moment. Each passing day brought an avalanche of image analyses, videos, and slowed-down footage of Meghan during her pregnancy, all spreading at a feverish pace. In closed-door palace briefings, The king's highest advisors whispered the words no monarch wants to hear. Your Majesty, the public no longer believes. That single sentence was a loaded weapon. A monarchy survives not merely on tradition, but on recognized legitimacy. And when the people start to ask, is Archie really Prince Harry's biological son? King Charles had no option left but to act, not because he harbored doubt, but because an entire nation was demanding answers. And he knew if he didn't provide a definitive response, the royal family would plunge into a crisis of trust without precedent. So the command was issued short, cold, and undeniable DNA test. He summoned the royal medical team that had served the monarchy for 3 generations. Professionals who could not be bought, who would not be swayed. In parallel, King Charles ordered the royal police to oversee the entire process from sample collection to sealing to verification. I will not allow any hand to obscure the truth, he declared, voice steely. This time, there will be no grey areas. For hundreds of years, no British monarch had ever been forced to investigate the bloodline of their own grandchild. But the times had changed, and this scandal, if left unchecked, could forever stain the institution of the monarchy. King Charles understood it was just one test, but it was the line between stability and collapse. 4. Harry and Archie are summoned back. For years, the chasm between King Charles III and his youngest son, Prince Harry, was no longer just geographical. It was a bottomless void of coldness, distance, and silence. Since the day Harry and Meghan withdrew from the royal family and took Archie to America, father and son had nearly cut off all contact. No letters, no phone calls, not a single word of inquiry. Charles was never one to express affection easily, but over the years he had also never taken the initiative to rebuild the blood tie. No offer of reconciliation, not even a birthday call to his grandson. The King of England remained silent, either to preserve the royal image or because he believed Harry had chosen his own path, no longer part of the crown. But this time was very different. The summons was issued bearing the mark Top Secret, National Emergency. For the first time in years, the phone rang inside the Montecito mansion with a cold, commanding voice. His Majesty requests your presence in London as soon as possible. Bring the child. No further explanation. The summons bore no familial warmth. It was a command from the throne. Harry stared at the screen, frozen. Meghan flatly refused. I won't cooperate with their power games. She turned her back and walked out into the garden as if nothing had happened. But inside, she knew. Every nerve was strung tight. This was no longer a media war. This was the final assault. The private jet, dispatched by the palace, landed quietly at Heathrow. No crowds, no cameras. Just a line of dark vehicles waiting. Royal police stepped forward, escorting Harry and young Archie into the car without a word. No one looked for Meghan, because the palace knew she wouldn't come. As the massive doors of Buckingham Palace opened, Harry entered like a stranger in his own home. No one greeted him. Only King Charles stood by the fireplace, back straight gaze, sharp as a scalpel, dissecting every thought of his disgraced son. You said it was all true. Then prove it. No shouting. Just a cold warning, low as a funeral bell. Don't make me question my own blood. Harry bowed his head. For the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. That very night, the royal medical team was ordered to proceed. Those who had witnessed the births of 3 generations of royals, those who could neither be bribed nor coerced. Under strict surveillance by royal police, DNA samples were collected from Archie, from Harry, and from a silver hair of King Charles, an unprecedented ritual of honour verification in modern British history. Meghan remained absent. Instead, she sent a message through her lawyer: "I refuse to cooperate with any form of testing that is demeaning and rooted in the control of women." That response to the public was like gasoline on a fire. She did not come, did not explain, did not defend her son. And so all eyes turned to Harry, the once beloved man, now teetering on the edge of a cliff. As the sealed test tubes were transported to a top-secret military lab in the north of England, the entire kingdom held its breath. Everyone knew if those results deviated from what the royal family had claimed all these years, the consequence wouldn't just be a scandal. It would be a political and cultural earthquake, enough to shatter the sacred bloodline of the Windsor dynasty. The international media swarmed. Those who once praised Harry and Meghan as a fresh breeze now turned faster than hunting hounds. Analysts, historians, and royal experts flooded the airwaves, speculating endlessly. Some even went so far as to question, was the entire existence of Archie Mountbatten Windsor nothing more than a product of an AI script media manipulation and calculated deceit? Meanwhile, Charles did not leave the palace for a single step. He spent sleepless nights, not because he doubted his grandson, but because he feared the consequences if the truth had been distorted for too long. "I am not punishing a child," he told the Prime Minister in a private meeting. "I am protecting the throne from a fracture that may never heal." And as the day of the results approached, a heavy gloom settled over the palace's stone walls. It was as though history itself was waiting either for the final restoration of honour to a child born in the storm, or for the death sentence of the public's faith in the sacred symbol known as the British royal family. And the final result. The sealed meeting room inside Buckingham Palace was fully soundproofed. The lighting was dimmed, just enough to evade the powerful binoculars that constantly stalked from the outside. Upon a mahogany table carved with the royal crest, a black leather briefcase was placed. The one who placed it was Sir Gregory Halstead, head of the Royal Biochemistry Team, a man who had verified the bloodlines of dozens of royals over 2 decades. He silently opened the case and retrieved a large white envelope sealed with red wax bearing the symbol of a phoenix wing, the mark of top secret national security threat classification. King Charles III sat at the head of the table, back straight, hands clasped, his face expressionless. But his eyes never left the envelope, as though he already knew what was waiting inside. Harry sat at an angle, fists clenched, eyes bloodshot. Inside him was chaos, fear, confusion, and a fragile hope that he would be confirmed as the biological father. For years, he had lived in the whirlwind of public opinion, in the feeling of being cast aside. But one thing had kept him grounded: Archie. His son, the last pride he could still hold on to. The envelope was opened. A stack of A4 papers was drawn out. Dr. Halstead, in a voice cold as circuitry, read line by line, "Test ID RX47 2025. Subject A, Henry Charles Albert David. Subject B, Archie Harrison, Mountbatten Windsor. Genetic match rate 0.00%. He looked up, his gaze heavy. There is no biological father-son relationship between Prince Harry and the child Archie. The entire room sank into a deadly silence. It was as if Harry had been struck in the head with a hammer. But before he could regain his senses, Halstead continued, Subject C, Rachel Meghan Markle. Genetic match rate, 0.00%. Biological mother-child relationship. The air seemed to vanish. Harry staggered, his mouth opened, but no words came out. The papers before him danced, spun, and shattered. He turned to his father, searching for a look of compassion. But King Charles did not waver. He looked at his son as if facing a complete stranger. Not out of contempt, but because he himself could not comprehend the tragedy unfolding before them. No, this can't be, Harry whispered. I remember clearly. We chose the surrogate from a secure program. Meghan handled everything, but I was there during the tests. I signed the authorization forms. Archie was born at Portland Hospital. I held him from the first minute. He grasped his head. There's no way I'm not his father. Charles still said nothing. His gaze moved from his son to the window, where thousands of citizens remained gathered outside the gates, unaware that an empire was fracturing from within. He no longer cared for personal emotion. For Charles, there was now only one thing, the honor of the monarchy. Harry suddenly burst into tears. Not for status, not for losing the line of succession, but for a love betrayed to the bone. Every day he cared for Archie, every hug, every lullaby. It had all been a role in a play in which he had been the most ruthlessly deceived actor. And Meghan, the woman he had sworn to protect until death, had known all along. She knew, Harry murmured. She must have known. She once said, no one should test Archie. She always avoided ultrasound photos. I thought she just wanted privacy. But she knew he wasn't my flesh and blood. His pain morphed into bitter anger. She wrote the whole script. She acted. And I was the idiot who believed it all. Harry turned to Charles, crawling forward like a desperate child. Father, please, don't let the public know this. Please keep it a secret. Archie is older now. He thinks I'm his father. Charles neither nodded nor shook his head. He looked at Harry for a long time. In that gaze was a storm of unspoken emotion, part pity, part coldness, part fury. He finally said, keep it a secret. This will come out. A child not of royal blood cannot remain in the line of succession. Sooner or later, the entire kingdom will have to know, and I will have to answer to Parliament. The door opened. Dr. Halstead departed with the case file, its contents encrypted by biometric code. Harry didn't get up. He remained kneeling on the floor, clinging to the papers that certified his collapse. From now on, he was not just the prince, stripped of his title. He was the father of a child that wasn't his, and the husband of a woman who had never told the truth. 6. Meghan quickly flees from Montecito. King Charles had no other choice. After a series of internal meetings with the Privy Council, the Home Office, and the Royal Security Advisory Board, he signed an unprecedented decree in modern history, stripping Harry, Meghan, and their 2 children, Archie and Lilibet, of all titles, privileges, and royal status. A cold sentence without trial, as the evidence was too clear and the honor of the monarchy could not afford to be deceived another day. Not only were they removed from the line of succession, Harry and Meghan were also strictly prohibited from appearing in any media product associated with the royal family, including television shows, documentaries, podcasts, and even commercial advertisements. Netflix, Spotify, BBC, and other global platforms received an immediate warning from the palace. All exploitation of royal identity has been severed. Any appearance under their former titles will face legal consequences. Their assets in the UK were instantly frozen. Frogmore Cottage, once renovated using royal funds, at a cost of nearly £2.5 million, was ordered to be reclaimed. All royal security teams previously assigned to the couple in London, Windsor, and Scotland were recalled. The legal division also froze all undistributed inheritance from the late Queen Elizabeth II. In the eyes of the royal system, Harry was now merely a commoner, with no power, no wealth, and no place in the country where he was once born. Simultaneously, a lifetime ban on entry into the United Kingdom was issued for both Harry and Meghan. The order could only be lifted by a special parliamentary resolution or by a future heir to the throne, a near impossible scenario. Even invitations to funerals, national holidays, or royal commemorations were permanently withdrawn. They were no longer part of the family, as Charles coldly declared in the official statement. The news shocked the world. But inside the multi-million-dollar mansion in Montecito, California, where Meghan Markle resided, the atmosphere was far more chaotic. Some sources from her personal security team revealed that Meghan was so panicked she needed sedatives, cried for hours, and frantically called lawyers and managers to figure out how to disappear from media radar. She requested emergency asylum options in Iceland, Portugal, or Switzerland, countries known for high privacy laws, minimal media, and little interest in the British royal family. Harry, meanwhile, was nearly broken. Since receiving the DNA results, he had lived in a state of mental paralysis. No one could reach him except his personal lawyer. Calls from the palace were blocked. Emails from Clarence House went unanswered. Bank accounts previously linked to the Prince of Wales's office were deactivated. To the public, Harry was once the rebellious son with a chance at redemption. But now that door had been slammed shut, locked from the inside, and the key thrown into the bottom of the Thames. King Charles wasn't merely managing a family crisis, he was sending a message. The royal family is not a reality TV stage. Anyone who steps into this realm must be grounded in honor, must carry true royal blood, and must place loyalty to the nation above all personal ambitions. For him, this was not merely punishment, it was a necessary action to protect the integrity of the Windsor dynasty. While American media scrambled to analyze the fallout, European outlets had already dubbed the event the Montecito Purge, a modern-day erasure from history books. In royal museums and exhibitions, images of Harry and Meghan were being replaced, captions beneath photos edited to read former royal members. Even UK history textbooks were ordered to be reviewed for content adjustment in line with the new reality. Meghan knew she was about to become a symbol of modern deception. The memoirs she once wrote, the millions-viewed interviews, were now no longer weapons, but evidence against her in the court of public opinion. And while Harry still clung to the faint hope of paternal love, Meghan had quietly begun arranging her departure from the United States, this time not to tell a royal story, but to escape the shadow of a truth just revealed. Social media exploded with hashtags like #FakeRoyals, #Archie scandal, and exiled Sussex shooting to the top of global trends. Thousands of users on Twitter, now X, asked, All these years, how much of the wounded Duchess narrative was actually true? Old clips of Meghan crying in her Oprah interview were recut layered with mocking music and spread like wildfire, transforming her from a figure of sympathy into a model of masterful deception. Not just British media, even the American press showed signs of outrage. CNN and NBC networks that once shielded the couple began digging into multi-million-dollar contracts, backstage deals with Netflix, and the public opinion control campaigns that had silenced the British monarchy for years. We were played by Meghan, admitted a senior Vanity Fair editor live on air. She didn't just act the victim. She wrote the script, directed it, and distributed it under the guise of reality. The international press was no longer chasing Meghan for fairy tales, but to uncover how much of them had been fabricated. They unearthed medical records, pregnancy details, financial histories, and mysterious disappearances, all put under a microscope. From Hollywood, Dream Princess Meghan now faced the harshest trial of all, a global court of public judgment where justice was dictated by truth and the fury of those who once believed in her. The truth just unveiled didn't merely end a modern fairy tale. It tore down the velvet curtain of promises, perfect family photos, and a masterfully orchestrated media campaign built over years. Who is Meghan? Really, where did Archie and Lilibet come from? Is Harry still sane enough to distinguish between love and manipulation? And did King Charles act too late? Or far too late? Millions await the answers not from the press, but from the very people involved if they still dare to speak the truth. A dynasty just amputated its own cancer, but the shock is far from over. In the coming days, more secrets may surface, and the consequences could stretch far beyond imagination. Thank you for staying with us to the very end. If you don't want to miss any more explosive developments about the British royal family, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and join us as we uncover the truth behind the dazzling lights.